Oh, that's your fault. It's your fault. We didn't know it was a month ago.
Come on, man, just get into the quarterly pay world. Let's get into the quarterly pay world.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Agenda Review. We got a BOCC agenda. We got a fire district agenda for Wednesday, April the 17th. The Manager Stoltz, would you like to walk us through?
Tanya, or is Nicole here? Are you going to do updates? Okay.
Okay, so we have one thing for next week, and it will be the election I voted sticker winner presentation.
Okay. All right. On the main agenda, we have 4 proclamations. We try to limit proclamations to 3, but in springtime, there's a lot happening. So we have 4 proclamations. On one of them, item F is ours. It's a telecommunicators week. That's our 911 people we want to honor.
Can I ask you a question? Is everybody okay with going out and taking a break and going out on the stairs? I think there's practical reasons why we do it, so nobody trips over all the cords and things like that.
In the environment we're in, I absolutely.
It certainly slows things down.
Too convoluted up front. So
just remember, I'm getting a reputation about having long meetings, so I'm just making sure that. Okay.
I think it's okay as long as they do it once. Go out there once,
Yes.
whatever pictures are taken.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
do what you've been doing, which is table them all until the end and go out. Yeah.
Very good.
I don't think that's the reason for the long meeting. That's just 5-10 minutes, but. One appointment, Commissioner Howe has a district advisory board appointment, and then some new business, project search graduation recognition, which is always nice. Jeanette will be here to present that.
With that, typically there's photos there too, so you may want to hold your proclamation photos until after search and get them all done at once.
Appreciate you looking out for me there. It's good.
Then Tanya will present the last, will hopefully adopt the federal legislative platform. She's added some words. I'm sure she'll get you a copy, if not already, beforehand, so you can see it. And then Board of Bids and Contracts. I think, Rusty, there was just one item on that, right? Just one or Tim, one item. Yeah, so. Under consent, we have 4 easement issues, a couple of which have fiscal notes and a couple of which do not. Item K is a easement for a bridge replacement that has a fiscal note of $2,000. Item L is a right-of-way easement for drainage that has a fiscal note of $1,295. Item M is a site radius easement. There's no fiscal note to that. It's in Commissioner Dennis's district. And item N is a construction easement for the Maple Street bike path. 2 easements actually, no fiscal note to either of those. Item O and P are, and I think Lynn might want to talk to this, but I think he has sent you an email earlier this morning also. This is a resolution removing the connecting link portion of certain streets around the county, basically moving county roads to city.
Correct.
Section.
As you may recall, the 2020 census, and yeah, we're still dealing with things back that far. They had officially indicated that Mays and Goddard were both over 5,000 of population, making them cities of the second class. Therefore, their connecting links then become city roads. But it does still take a resolution from us to officially do it. The final official notification didn't come out until 2023, and we just have been honestly lagging behind on getting resolution before BOCC to make it official. They have been maintaining those roads the last year and a half or so, but this just makes it official and takes it off our highway system.
Good. Okay. Item Q and R are Charlotte Pipe project agreements, and I think Justin's going to talk about these over.
Certainly. And just to explain, and the scope of that project, there's a KDOT grant application the board applied for last year that's going to fund the majority of this project. But I'll start with item R, which is a funding sharing agreement. There is a local match on that of, I believe, 25% total of the project. And this is for roadway improvements. And there's also a rail spur that's going to be developed as part of that. And so item R would be splitting up that local match between Sedgwick County, the city of Mays, and then also Watco's in charge of the railroad along there. and would administer how that's done. Item Q is an agreement where the city of Mays would authorize us to do work on there. So some of these streets were annexed by the city of Mays in the last handful of months. And so in order for us to have authority to let out a project and do work on road work in the city, they have to authorize us to do that. There are going to be subsequently two different KDOT agreements the manager has authority to sign pursuant to the board's action last year in applying for that grant. Those will probably be finalized in the next few weeks here, hopefully. Let me know if you have any questions, and Lynn may be able to answer any others you might have. Oh, and Brent Shelton's here too. Yeah, he can answer.
So are these additions to what we all kind of first agreed upon, or is this kind of seal up the stuff?
I think the best way to put it is there's a lot of parties and there's 4 total agreements. So this is all what was contemplated. It's a whole package. And so when you get that many parties and that many agreements together, it's taken some time. There's some complexity to it.
And the reason I ask is Chairman and I were at a meeting this morning and Charlotte Pipe came up and this was just going to be one of their how many facilities around the country, and they, because of the success and the growth and the workforce availability, they're going to make this their largest plant. So it's got, so that's why I was wondering if this was growth, or Lynn, you need to be acknowledged that it sounds like they're going to have an explosion. So I didn't of growth.
That's great news to hear because they had a large facility going in the first place. At this time, from a infrastructure standpoint, they are all the infrastructure is on the Mays land. Mays actually acquired additional land for their industrial park to the north to expand their industrial park for Charlotte Pipe. And we are working with Mays to put in a turning lane along 119th Street to facilitate that additional truck traffic. But that's the only impact at this point that we have to our infrastructure.
I think to answer your question, I think all of this was the original agreement. Is there anything? Okay.
There's nothing.
Mike, right.
nothing
Yeah,
additional.
you have to push the button, right?
Brett, how long you worked here at the county?
He's made good categories.
Welcome.
Anyway,
Technology is not my strong suit.
Eco Devo is.
It is though.
So with this project, there was the KDOT agreement that required the 25% match. And that 25% match has been split between the county, the city of Mays, and Watco. So this agreement, the funding agreement just kind of sets out the piece of, yes, it's a reimbursement grant, so we'll front the money and then we'll invoice the city and the railroad as we go forward. This agreement is just to kind of clarify that. It's just within the scope of that original KDOT agreement.
Brad, there were some questions that had come up about what the original agreement was for water. I reached out to you. Mays had some questions. There's a new city manager there, so there was some ambiguity. We get all good with Charlotte on the water conversation?
I think so. We gave them all the information that we have. There were some early discussions with all the players, and notes and minutes from those meetings was provided to Mays, so they
Should be on the same page. Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, thanks.
Down to item S is the approval of 2 quitclaim deeds transferring the title of Station 31 and Station 34 in Sedgwick County Fire District to the fire district away from the county. Item E, I might want Tim to talk a little bit about too. This is an agreement for WPD. It's on the Overdose 2 Action Grant.
There's one D missing in that description. It's Overdose Data 2 Action Grant. And so about 6 months ago, Health Department was the community grant applicant, and we were awarded about $4 million over 5 years. Some of the money is going to go to Regional Forensic Science Center for some equipment. Some of it goes to staffing in the health department. Some of it goes to staffing in the community. The point of this contract is to allow us to give the city of Wichita the money to hire a data analyst so they can look at overdose crime related data and then help inform the community on actions to take going forward.
Who is this grant with? Who do we receive this grant from?
It's a CMS grant.
And Tom, can I make a quick comment on the item S? I do think we're going to want to split one of those deeds to actually be on the fire agenda as a consent agenda item because it's clarifying how it's titled, but it's actually titled in the fire district's name. So one of those should actually be on the fire district agenda. We can modify that easily. Just want to make the board aware. All right.
And we had some discussion yesterday which agenda it should be on. And I thought the consensus was it'd be on general, but we'll work with Sabrina when the meeting's over. Okay. Would it show up on both agendas then, Justin? Okay.
Yeah, what I think you'd have is one on one agenda and one on the other. It needs to probably be on the agenda of the body that's deeding it.
All right, we'll get the technicalities worked out after the meeting.
Okay.
Item to you is the Wichita, this is a ongoing relationship that ComCare has with KU to roll third-year residents through a rotation with ComCare. It's mutually beneficial. We renew it every year. The fiscal note on it is we pay KU 85,000 and what's his equivalent to one physician, but they roll through 4, 5, 6 physicians into that role. So it's a mutually beneficial agreement that we've had for years between ComCare and KU Med. Anything else on that? And that is it. The rest of the agenda is routine business and plat development, et cetera. The fire agenda is minutes, and then I will add an item under consent regarding what Justin just talked about. And then the other consent item is the item that we have talked about a couple of times in meeting. It will be the termination of the services agreement between Sedgwick County Fire and Derby for plan review. And Chief is here if there are any questions.
Rest of your chief, could you just give us a quick update, the communication with Derby and everybody's on the same page?
Yeah. I've been in communication with Kyle Mangus, the city administrator, and he is the one who said he was good to move forward with this.
Okay.
So we're on the same page, and I've talked to Chief.
Chief's good. He gives a thumbs up.
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez is on Zoom. So if you have any questions or any feedback, feel free to jump in.
Hey, nope, nothing on my end right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Dennis is traveling today. I will have a question, Lynn, for you for just some clarity on a project that's taking place. But Commissioner Howe, go ahead.
So we had a staff meeting on the federal legislative platform a while back, and I know there was a number of comments that came up. Do we have an updated copy of what we're talking about?
Yeah, the language that you wanted added, we slipped in at a couple of points, actually. Connie, you want to talk about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. The first one, I think we talked about Calfskin Creek project and whether or not that was on the city of Wichita's federal platform. I communicated with Jim Jonas, and the conclusion was that is not going to be on their federal platform because they don't believe they're going to get the brick. We will get the brick grant for that. I think also Gary Jansen also felt there was another way to get some funding. And so, Lynn, I don't know if you want to add on to anything that I'm saying besides that, or if you know anything additional to that. Okay, so we will pull that off of our federal platform. I think also you wanted to add some language with regard to the federal debt. And so that language is in there. And so after this meeting, I will send out that updated federal platform for your review.
That'd be great. And then that's my only question on that. I'm curious about that turn lane for Charlotte Pipe. Is that something we'll be seeing in a CIP amendment somewhere?
No, that's actually part of the original agreement that was part of the EcoDevo package. It is actually we are hiring the consultant and paying for it out of the EcoDevo funds, but it's done. We're using the engineer that is making the improvements, which is MKC, one of our engineers we use as a local engineer that will be making the improvements on the Charlotte Pipe property itself, so that they just commingle very well.
I know this is agenda review, but we are an open public meeting, so I'm wondering if we could tolerate it. Just a question to staff regarding the funding that Wichita may or may not have for the MAC that's continues to came up yesterday a little bit during the luncheon discussion a little bit, and I had some questions this morning from some meetings that I had with some constituents and stuff. And I understand, going back to what we saw last year, like around October, November, Wichita presented a slide that talked about a $79.5 million MAC project. And they had a number of different sources of funding. This is an appropriate time or not appropriate time. I just have a question on what is the status? We can talk about this next week if you'd rather, but I think it's a relevant discussion. I would love to see us talk a little bit about. There's questions right now whether Riverside Hospital is something that's actively being pursued as a MAC still. I'm a little bit confused on that. I'm very confused on what dollars are actually in hand, or which dollars are prospective in our grant applications that we're expecting to get in at some point to the city of Wichita. And I'm also concerned because some of the money that was identified as cash on hand is ARPA funds. And I'm not so sure if that's an appropriate, if that's an allowable use of ARPA funds that they may have available. So I'm just very, very confused on this topic, and I hate to be confused. And to the extent that I have to speak about this when I'm asked, I would really love to have some updated information regarding what is the status.
You want to go or would you like me to go?
Go ahead, Tim, and I can fill in some gaps from what I know.
We had a meeting Tuesday evening with the anticipated providers within the MAC to talk about a number of different things, including some of the funding availability. So they had that $79 million, they call it a capital stack, to build out a number of different things. That included about $20 million from the state. Well, it appears that $20 million isn't going to be available. And so they've backed that out. And one of the things that does is it probably changes the size of the MAC itself. And the conversation that we had on Tuesday indicated that they're still considering Riverside Hospital for housing because they're selling housing stock that they've got. They've got money that they can use to spend on facilities and then do permanent supportive housing and low-income housing. They've got grant applications in for low-income tax credits. They've got a grant application in with the state for what's called home ARP funds. And so now they've taken that $20 million out and they're looking at a different location for the MAC itself. So right now the tentative plan would be to do housing at Riverside and do the MAC function in the existing neighborhood that's nearby Humankind and the services they've got going already.
So the discussion they had on Tuesday at the city council was to purchase, I guess, space for the next, if you will, the emergency winter shelter. I think that's perspective again. I think that's the plan. Is that's the space identified for the next solution to this coming fall. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, you're not wrong, but I'd reframe it a little bit. They sold the facility where they had the winter overflow shelter. And the plan is to put winter overflow shelter, 24/7, 365 shelter, which would include winter overflow in the MAC. And so that's the current plan. And I don't know that they're ready to talk about where that is yet, but it's in the neighborhood. It's in the HK neighborhood.
Okay, so that's a new comment. So that now you're saying that the MAC and this emergency shelter is going to be the same space.
Yes, and that's always been, I think, part of the plan is that they want the MAC and immediate shelter to be together so that people who are looking for an immediate place to stay get intaked in the MAC, and then they're housed short-term immediately, and then the services to help them get through whatever it is that they need to get through to move into more permanent, secure housing is right there on site.
Well, this isn't probably the right time. I guess I'd like to sit down with you or whoever can answer some questions. I've got a dozen questions I'd like to have a discussion with someone to bring me up to speed, because I feel like this has gotten a lot more confusing in the last week or two. And I'm not sure what dollars are actually in hand, which dollars are expected, where things are going to go, what purpose and mission of each space has, whether the state is there an attempt to ask the state in the future for additional help, or is that gone forever? I know there's some people talking about we'll try this next year. I don't think that's actually reasonable, but and I say that for a number of reasons, but I don't know if this is a staff meeting discussion or if this is something we can do. Decide. I mean, if I'm the only one that has confusion and questions, It doesn't need to be an open meeting necessarily. To me, there's enough questions out there right now. I think everyone is confused. I just want to state that. I don't think anybody knows where we are right now with all these topics. It's incredibly confusing. And the dollars are very undefined, exactly where the dollars are coming from. So with that, I'll just say, well, this is a open meeting discussion we need to have, or just a discussion with me. I'll leave that with staff to approach that one way or the other. I need help. Thank you so much.
I have one question. Lynn, there was a project that's not in my district, but since Commissioner Dennis isn't here, I'll mention it because I'm getting a lot of people calling and asking about it. 167th and 21st. I'd text you just clarity what was happening. There's some movement out there and people were asking what was going on. Could you give some clarity?
Yeah, so this is a project that we had approved last year. It is intersection conflict warning system that consists of alternating flashing lights in addition to the stop signs. It's still a two-way stop controlled intersection, but provides some additional visibility for that intersection. We had intended to get this done during the winter, but backlog with ordering on the parts and pieces carried it out. Such the installation is just starting now. This is a hybrid installation. We have the contractor putting in some of the parts and pieces, and then our crews are doing the rest to try to keep costs down. And that the contractor portion is what's being done now. We're still waiting on one control module that should be here in the next month or two that will actually complete the actual control of all the flashing lights. And we're expecting to have basically this will be implemented in two phases. It'll be implemented initially with all four quadrants flashing lights, red lights for 167th, yellow lights for 21st Street. And when we get that last module in, the lights on 21st Street will only flash whenever there is a pending conflict on its way on 167th. And that's the true benefit of this system. You're not going to have constant flashing lights that you eventually ignore because they're always flashing. When you're on 21st Street, you're only going to see those flashing lights when something on 167th is headed your way. So it just kind of alerts you to like, hey, take a little extra precaution.
Okay, very good. Appreciate that. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Have a good weekend. See you next week.